I did smell the gas, and I'm so embarrassed to admit this, but I ignored it at first. And then my neighbor texted me and he's like, "Do you smell that?" And then I thought, okay, this is not good. Hello friends, welcome to Chickenlandia. My name is Dahlia. I'm a backyard chicken educator, also known as the president of Chickenlandia. Raising chickens has been the best way for me to find peace and joy in my life, and I want to help you find that too. Oh gosh, here is Chickenlandia again with the drama. There is no shortage of drama in Chickenlandia, but at least it's like contained drama. I'm not like having some stupid beef with another homesteading channel or something. I'm not naming any names. All right, so okay, I'll put you down. I know, you find treats? I gave her some treats. All right, so I was not in Chickenlandia when all of this started. I was actually in the Winnebago, and if you guys follow me on social media, you might know that we have a vintage Winnebago. The first man went out and got it and brought it home one day. And I do a lot of writing in there. In fact, I am working on a new book. So I was in there on this particular day writing, and then it was time for me to go inside. And it was when I opened the door to the Winnebago that I smelled the weird smell. It was like that unmistakable rotten egg smell. Everybody knows what you're supposed to do when you smell this smell, but I gotta tell you, denial ain't just a river in Egypt. Okay? It is alive and well in Chickenlandia because, like I said earlier, I smelt it and I didn't want to deal with it. I don't know, like this part of my brain took over where it was like, oh, that's nothing. That's nothing. And I think it was because it was overwhelming and I just didn't want to try and figure it out or deal with it. I know that it was immensely stupid, but I am just being honest with you and telling you how it went down. So because I have this platform and I want to redeem myself a little bit before I go on, want to tell you, please do as I say, not as I do. If you smell that unmistakable rotten egg smell, especially if you're in your house or if you're in any building, you and everyone else there needs to leave that place immediately, like go outside, get at least 300 feet away from the building and then call 911. Don't use electrical switches, appliances, garage door openers, because all those things can cause sparks, so that might be dangerous. Don't use lighters or matches. Don't smoke a cigarette, no matter how stressed you are. Don't turn off your gas meter, like leave that to the professionals. Just get out of there as fast as you can and call 911. And even if you're outside and you smell that smell outside, the first thing you should do is call 911. Now that is not what I did. I went inside, I took a shower, I ignored it, and then I got this text from my neighbor and he was like, "Do you smell that strong smell of propane outside?" And I was like, "Yes, I do." And in fact, like I had a headache at that point because it was so strong. Just smelling that like gave me like an instant headache, and I was like, okay, this is probably not good. This is like when reality started to set in. My husband was also in that text and he was like, "You need to call 911 right now." My husband is like famously level-headed. He's like, "Just call 911 right now." And so I did. I called 911 and they were like, "Yeah, we're getting a lot of reports right now. Let me just patch you into the fire department." So they did. And the fire department was like, "We're getting a lot of calls. It's throughout the county and we're trying to figure out what the source of it is." And at that point I was like, okay, so is it dangerous? And there was like this long pause. And then finally the guy was like, "Well, I don't know because we don't know what it is." And I did start to get scared at that point. So I had to make some decisions really quick, and let me just show you what happened next. I have 3 chickens in the car because that's all I could grab, and maybe I'm overreacting. But it's kind of scary because the smell was just so intense, like the gas smell or the sulfur smell. It's really like driving home, like when there's a natural disaster and people have to leave and they have to leave their animals and they don't have a choice. And I'm really hoping that's not the case. Like I can't in a moment's notice put 50 something chickens in a car. I just can't. I gotta get my dogs and I gotta make sure my kids are okay and that my husband's okay. So sorry, my dogs are crying. You're okay, baby. So I've got Bubblicious and I've got Pickles and Monkey. And that's like all I could grab. And Pickles and Monkey are underneath Bubblicious, and Bubblicious is like having them underneath him like they were baby chicks. And it's super sweet. So the smell went away. They don't know what it was. And we are now headed back to the house. The chickens do not like that sound of the dogs barking, but we're going back. I didn't get a lot of footage beyond that point because honestly, like I was in it. I was in real life. I wasn't thinking about creating content. I was just thinking about getting to safety. So what I ended up doing is going and picking up my son from school, my youngest son from school. My oldest son, like they didn't have any smell where he was, which was so funny because we were all like pretty close together. I mean, we're in the county, but it only affected like certain areas. But anyway, I picked up my youngest from school and we went to my husband's shop and just kind of hung out there for a few minutes, and basically the smell just went away. Actually, the fire department came to my house, and which was like, why did they do that? But I think they did it because I called, and so they just come, like if you call and you say that you smell gas, they're gonna come to your house. So they came to the house. I wasn't here, but my neighbor was like, you can't smell it anymore. So we figured we were good to go back, but we were like, what was this? For all that day, we didn't get any answers. The fire department didn't know what it was. There was nothing about it in the news. It wasn't until the next day when we found out what actually happened. So before I tell you what it was, which is actually kind of ridiculous. But anyway, before I get into that, I do want to talk about something because this whole situation really made me think. All over the country, especially in these last few years, there's been a lot of natural disasters, really awful things, train derailments and the hurricanes and fires. And every time something like that happens, people lose animals. And they also have to make really, really hard decisions. And something that I unfortunately see on social media a lot when these kind of things happen is people passing judgment because somebody just had to leave and they couldn't take their animals. And that makes me sad. I see a lot of people commenting like, I can't believe you left your animals, or how could you do that, or you shouldn't have animals if you can't deal with them in a disaster. And I understand that these people care deeply about animals, but I do think that that is wrong-headed. I am somebody that cares very deeply for my animals. I really, really care about my chickens, my ducks, and of course my dogs. The idea of them being hurt or being in a situation that they can't control where they're trapped or something like that, that is just so awful to me. I just can't imagine being in that situation where you're just hoping and praying like, please let my animals be alive when I come back. It's just, that is just unimaginable. And I just got a tiny little taste of that, when I came back and I brought my chickens back and I let them out, and I just realized like, oh my gosh, this could have been so much worse. But the reality of the situation, and even in my situation where I have a lot, and I'm really fortunate, but even in my situation, I have all the crates and everything. Like if I needed to evacuate my chickens, if I had time, like if I could pluck them off the roost and get them into their crates and get them into the back of the truck, then that would be wonderful, you know? And I could do that, and I could take them somewhere that was safe. A lot of people can't do that. But even for me, if it's something that happens like all of a sudden, like what happened here, there's no way I could take all my chickens. I have 48 chickens and 6 ducks. And I can't, you know, I can't, I gotta get my dogs, I gotta get my kids, I gotta make sure my husband's okay. There's no way that I could spend any amount of time like running around my chicken yard trying to catch all my chickens. It would just be an unimaginably awful situation. And I can't imagine telling somebody that's in that situation, you know, how could you be this way? How could you do this? It's just, I hate it. It's finally an article that came out in the paper, one of the local papers, and it basically said that the smell was actually coming from Canada. We're like 30 minutes from the Canadian border up here in Bellingham. So the article said officials with the Bellingham Fire Department reported an accidental release of odorant at a facility north of the US-Canada border was determined the source of the odor. That's literally the sentence. Get editors, okay? Anyway, basically it's like this place where they make the odor that they put into gas so that you can detect it, so that you can smell it, because gas doesn't have a smell. It's a place that makes that, and there was a leak, and so that's why we were smelling it. And it wasn't the first time it happened. It had happened like a few times before that, and they couldn't figure out what it was. And I'm like, don't these countries talk to each other? Like, come on, like, can't we figure this out sooner? But anyway, so yeah, once again, drama swept through Chickenlandia. It swept through, but we made it through. And the funny thing is that right after that happened is when like almost half my flock got some kind of respiratory bug. It was like a bacterial thing. And it went through my flock, and that was so stressful and full of drama. And of course, I made a video all about it. It's on the screen right now. In the video, I show you how I get through this respiratory thing with my chickens, and they're doing well now. As always, it's 100% friendly. Backyard chickens, education, and entertainment. And I know you're gonna love it. Okay, it's freezing back here. I'm going inside.